Hello everyone, this is the great Lord and Master Osiron, the Eternal, for a continuation of the Spear of Destiny video. I kind of sat on this for a while because I was sort of toying whether I wanted to make a video about this, but there were some key things that I really want to get to in here, and so I think a video does make sense, but you really will need to watch the first part of this video, the Spear of Destiny video, to really know what's going on, because I don't really plan to cover that much of that information here. This is sort of more of like a timeline of human history, because if you remember, the Spear of Destiny here separates itself into what appears to be Yuga-like separations, Age of Man separations. And one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video so much is because you can see here the tip of the Spear of Destiny. We are in the Age of Pisces, and I'll get to that in a minute. But you see it's separated into three distinct sections. You got this, the tip of the spear, and then you got this section here, and this section here. And that's separated by the order of elements. Well, it just so happens that our accepted human history begins right at this line here with ancient Sumeria at about 3500 BC. And also, the dates I use are rough dates. I mean, I was using rough dates. I mean, they're accurate, but they're rough. I mean, they're not absolutely precise. So, Sumeria begins at about 3500 BC. If we count this as 0, if we roughly estimate each sign being 2,000 years, well, we get 2,000 and 4,000 right at this line. So Sumeria comes onto the scene right at this separation age line. And it's followed by Egypt at 3100 BC. The Greeks come on the scene at about 1200 BC. Rome has its thing at, between 500 BC to 500 AD, followed by the Dark Ages for another about 400 years after that. And the Vikings show up at North America at about 1000 AD. Columbus, we all know, 1492. The crypto-Jew Columbus shows up to North America. And then the modern age begins with the industrial age at about 1800 AD. I mentioned earlier about us still being in the Age of Pisces. In the previous video, I kept saying Aquarius because there was, lots of people that think that at the year 2000 we jumped into the Age of Aquarius. Well, that's not really true. Again, 2000 would be the rough estimation of time, but remember, each age is broken up into 2,160 year cycles for the precession, and if the 0 of the new era of the Christian calendar is accurate, and it's fairly accurate for the start of Pisces. It could be off by a couple hundred years, but it's fairly accurate. And with each age being 2,160 years, we are still firmly planted at the very end of the Age of Pisces, right here. So we are knocking on the door of the Saturnian realm of 0. In what could very well be the real Kali Yuga. Again, there's people who, that's going to require more research on my part to figure out exactly when and why they say the Yuga ages are what they are. But remember, a lot of information that's presented to us at face value needs to be explored deeper, as as I have shown clearly with the Kabbalistic tree of life. Because and that could be the same thing with the Yugas too. And because one of the things, because of this line, this demarc point here shows our beginning with Sumeria right at this line. I mean, how coincident? That's a pretty big coincidence. That a separation of an age is also the beginning of our age, our accepted age of humans being, building cities and shit. With Sumeria. But there is a fact that's been discovered recently, and that's the site of Göbekli Tepe. That's a site that has been absolutely confirmed to be about 12,000 years old from now, or about 10,000 BC. That's been dated to then, and that's not, that's not speculation. That's fairly ironclad. That an advanced civilization existed at 10,000 BC with Göbekli Tepe, and that puts it right in the age of Leo. And more about that too. There's people who think the Sphinx, that the Great Sphinx was actually created in the age of Leo. Now it's not absolute, and it's only a rough hypotheses, but there are people who think that, based on pretty reasonable evidence, because the Sphinx enclosure is a lot older than what they say it is. I mean, there's people who get into that, Graham Hancock and John Anthony West and those guys all get into that deeper, but the enclosure of the Sphinx was exposed to heavy rain in that area, which is now desert, wasn't exposed to rain for thousands of years prior to when they say it was built. But now, one thing about the Sphinx being built in this age, the Ice Age also ended. The Ice Age ended at around the same time, 10,000 BC. So there's actually people out there who think the Sphinx was built a whole cycle before that, so about 35,000 years or so, roughly. I'm just conjuring that off the top of my head based on the 25,920 year precession. And so what some people think is that the Sphinx was actually carved not in this past age of Leo, but the one previous to that. But again, it's just speculation. But so the Ice Age ended at about this time. We have this confirmed structure of Göbekli Tepe at 10,000 BC, the age of Leo, at the same time. The Sphinx was built, I put a question mark after that, around this time. So we have fairly clear evidence of, advanced human activity happening, what would be the golden age in this chart here. And that's that. Now, one thing about that, I call this the Spear of Destiny. There's a couple things I really want to get to, because it is a Spear of Destiny. You can call it a spear too, but you could also call it a giant dick or a phallus. Because one thing, I just noticed this recently. And this is sort of just a weird way I described this aspect, but on the Osiron Tarot Spiral, as I've said 1,000 times, the way this axis is derived is the first two cards of here, the High Priestess and the Magus, form the 3. It goes around to the 6, and the Chariot and Strength form the 6 of this card. And then when it comes around again, I always said, because these two houses form a 10, I always just said if you take that 1 and add it to the 6, that's how you get 7. But it's obvious, if that's a 3, this number is a 7. So the 7 lands there anyway. You don't have to do anything to it to get that 7. So it starts with a 3 with these cards. These two cards form the 6, and it goes around. And these 4 cards, the Tower, Star, Moon, and the Sun, give you directly the 7. And then when you add all those numbers up, it comes to 16, which is the exploding phallic tower. Okay? So there is no, you don't have to play with the numbers to get the 6, 3, 7 aspect. It derives itself naturally. And then when you add them up, it becomes 16, which reduces to 7. And 16 is the tower, and we've already seen. So this could either be the Spear of Destiny, if you want to be nice about it, call it the Spear of Destiny, or you could call it the Cosmic Phallus. Either one, it's the same thing. And so that's that. And one other thing I want to clear up about this, again, in the first video of this, I sort of was so hot to get it out, I may have been a little premature with it. And one of the things is, if you recall, the cherubic signs precess with air, water, fire, and earth. And we see air, water, fire, and earth. And you also see how the queens, how the court cards are dominant with the cherubic sign. So if this is cherubic water, and the queens are dominant here, which is water. In this section, the kings are dominant, and this is cherubic fire. Well, now the princes are cherubic, so you got cherubic earth here, but the other prince is cherubic air, and that fills in this realm here. So, but the only difference with that is the cherubic earth is outside of the Saturnian realm, and cherubic air falls into the Saturnian realm. So now when you see the number sequence of 0, 1, 2, and 3, which gives you a 6 for the masculine Kundalini, well, that is justified because this Saturnian realm is the equivalent to the 0 realm. This is basically a 0 realm because of life. Again, I get into that in the other video, but this is the 0 realm here. So if life emerges while it's still in this realm, it dies. Or Kundalini never awakens if you go in the processional way. So the air realm, the air aspect of the element, the cherubic air, falls in the Saturnian realm of 0, and then you got the water, fire, and earth after that, and it corresponds to its is congruent with what it is. So 1 is feminine for water, 2 is masculine, and fire is masculine. 3 is the Empress, which is pregnant with life, and then the Earth is pregnant with life. So it's completely congruent with this formula of 0, 1, 2, 3 with the cherubics, based on the fact that cherubic air falls into the Saturnian realm. Okay. One other aspect that I really needs to be mentioned too is Saturn. Saturn is always regarded as a masculine figure, and as we see over here, every planet has both a feminine and a masculine aspect. But when it comes to Saturn, Saturn is regarded as a masculine god. I mean, when you think of Saturn, most people think of a masculine god, Father Time and all that. But Saturn doesn't have an absolute masculine aspect. It only has completely feminine or androgyne. There is no absolute masculine aspect. As a matter of fact, when you factor the court cards into the signs and the elements, the only 2 planets that do show an absolute masculine aspect is Jupiter and Mercury. And you see Jupiter here that has a completely masculine aspect with Sagittarius and the king. And then the other one is Mercury with the king and then this house up here. So the only ones that show completely masculine are Jupiter and Mercury. And Saturn, which is regarded as masculine, is actually feminine. So if you want to regard, so Saturn, the god of the Jew, the Saturnian god of the Jew, is really feminine. It's really feminine at heart completely, and only shows a masculine aspect. It's sort of like Shiva and Shakti. It's the same exact thing as Shiva and Shakti. Shiva is the masculine expression of what is the greater Shakti. And it also shows with the rest of my work that the feminine precedes the masculine. The masculine is only a means of expression, but the greater eternal aspect of life is feminine. And it shows that with Saturn. So Saturn, you would be within your right to refer to Saturn as a goddess rather than a god. I think that's basically it. Well, here's the cards that form the axis of the Great Lord. You got the 6, Chariot and Strength. The 3 is derived from the High Priestess and the Magus. And the Tower is from the 7 comes from the Tower, the Star, and the Moon, and the Sun. And they all combine to form the Tower again. So this can either be considered the Spear of Destiny or the Cosmic Phallus. And right now, this presentation is shown in a view that's more congruent with, right now I have this displayed showing the sun rising and going around. But if you switch this to its view for a normal zodiac chart and turn it over, the angle would go up this way and it would switch the rotation to it. Everything would be reversed. But the reason I do it this way is because I'm showing the journey of the sun. So it's not, you know, we're calling this the abyss and this is the sun rising. That's why I show it like that. But a normal astrological chart has it reversed. A normal astrological chart has Aries, Taurus, and the rest going down and going in a counterclockwise motion, and that would reverse the precession too. So this is just a simpler way to view it. It's just a perspective thing. That's all it is. But so I'm pretty sure that's it. This is just sort of an addition to that other video. I just want to clear up some key points that I didn't clear up in the other video. One of them is that, you know, but the biggest thing is just the timeline of humanity. All of our history that we know about, or that you'll learn about in school, begins at this demarc point from Sumeria all the way to the present day. But now, again, as I said, we have new evidence. You know, there is new solid evidence that show action happening, you know, thousands of years prior to Sumeria too. So remember, each of these is, you know, 2,000 years. So we're seeing, you know, 2, 4, 6,000 years of time, which is basically the same time span from Sumeria to now. So, you know, we got 2,000, 4,000, 6,000. That's from Sumeria to now, in the same exact span of time going the other way, 246, is when we're seeing evidence for a lot of things going on. You know, the Ice Age ending, the Sphinx question mark built, but the most solid evidence of everything I have over here is the site of Göbekli Tepe. That is confirmed. That is as solid as you get, basically. And it shows advanced human civilization activity at 10,000 BC. And there's also a global structure. You know, there's a lot of structures in the world that quackademia discounts, but they're ancient. They're the oldest of the structures built, and they're also the most advanced and sophisticated. And we see that all over the world. South America, we see it in Egypt, we see it in Japan, everywhere, all over the place. We're seeing these structures that can't be explained or anything like that. And God knows when they were built in this timeline, but that's what that's what people are working on right now, to try to get to the bottom of the truth of human activity, and trying to rediscover a past that is either hidden purposely or just hasn't been discovered yet. But you know, the timeline, you know, our human story isn't finished, it's not complete, and what we know about ourselves isn't disclosed accurately. You know, this goes to Texas. You know, in Texas, there's a structure called the Rock Wall in Texas that is clearly advanced engineering, and no one knows about it. You know, I myself only looked into it sort of superficially, but there's other people who present work on that. But there's a gargantuan fucking wall in Texas that is clearly not created by means that we understand. So this is that. So thanks for watching, and namaste.